Jerwin Royupa has travelled from the Philippines to find answers about her brother's death.
I have mixed emotions. I don't know what to feel, but I'm just being positive. Almost 7 years.
Jerwin Royupa died in March of 2019. A coronial inquest has been investigating what happened. Jessa is here for the findings.
Jerwin was very sweet and kind. He's a very loving brother, loving son, loving friend.
Jerwin was one of 5 kids. His sister said he had big dreams.
He really wanted to be just a pastor, but in the Philippines, you have to have a degree. So he chose agriculture. So he's like, oh, I will be the first ever agriculturist pastor in the Philippines. So that's what was his goal.
He arrived in Australia in early 2019 on a subclass 407 training visa, which allows skilled workers to come here for structured workplace training. Jerwin was sponsored by a winery in New South Wales. The visa application indicated he would be trained as a mixed crop farmer and management trainee.
He's very excited not to just gain knowledge, but also to help, to be able to help our parents.
But 5 weeks after arriving in Australia, Jerwin was dead. He was just 21 years old.
It's very painful what happened to him. The only drive that that's keeping me alive is I promise him to give justice for him.
Deputy Coroner Rebecca Hosking said Jerwin was exploited during his time in Australia, finding that he worked 60 hours a week in excessive heat, performing manual labour. The court heard Jerwin did not receive the training or the allowance he was promised. Rebecca Hosking also said Jerwin did not have access to his passport and became fearful of his sponsor, who cannot be named for legal reasons. The coroner determined on the 14th of March 2019, Jerwin voluntarily jumped or fell from a moving vehicle, being driven by his sponsor, also known as Operator 1.
The coroner has described Operator 1's conduct after Jerwin exited the vehicle as deplorable, because Operator 1 did not render assistance through an ambulance immediately after Jerwin exited the vehicle. He was downplaying the extent of his injuries, and he had also left the scene after explicitly being advised not to do so.
Jerwin died at the Royal Melbourne Hospital the next day as a result of complications from blunt force injuries.
But from our perspective,
Shiza Naz represented the Royupa family at the coronial inquest.
the coroner described the investigation by police initially into his death as inadequate.
As part of her findings, the Deputy Coroner made several recommendations, including that the Department of Home Affairs conduct a thorough review into the lessons learned from Jerwin's death and to consider the risk of exploitation of subclass 407 visa holders.
Essentially, one of her findings is that the Department of Home Affairs, through their sponsor monitoring unit, was not proactively taking steps to protect workers who are at risk of exploitation.
The coroner accepted evidence that Jerwin's visa should never have been approved by Home Affairs. Even the support the department offers to migrants was taken to task.
The coroner found that for Jerwin, these supports were inaccessible, insufficient and inadequate.
We are all here today because Australian government agencies failed Jerwin Royupa.
Moe Taraga is an advocate for migrant workers in Australia.
Because most of them, their visa's running out in March or April.
He supported the Royupas throughout the inquest. He says he was trafficked to Australia in 1988.
I've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of workers, that are ringing up, they're not knowing their rights.
He says migrant exploitation is widespread, including people on subclass 407 visas.
How much do we care about our migrant workers? I think that's questions we need to ask the police.
We've had 7 years, and in that time, the amount of 407 visas being granted has grown enormously, and those people are still vulnerable in the same way that he was.
The National Anti-Slavery Commissioner Chris Evans says the inquest should be a wake-up call for government, writing to Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke to urge reform of the visa Jerwin Royupa was on.
There's a range of other fundamental aspects of the visa that need to be changed. Quite frankly, they absolutely need to be changed. And they are driving the vulnerability to forced labour and modern slavery that exists inside that visa class.
In a statement to 7:30, the Department of Home Affairs said they are urgently considering the recommendations and findings by the coroner, and that since Jerwin's death, improvements have been made to safeguard migrant workers from exploitation, with more regulatory changes targeting the behaviour of visa sponsors that are due in the first half of this year.
I'm jealous of Jerwin, that he has not have to go through this pain. It's very painful. What happened to him?
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much.
The Deputy Coroner has recommended Jerwin's death be referred to the Australian Federal Police. Jessa says she'll continue to fight for Jerwin.
This is another chapter, because just here, we couldn't say we have attained justice. There's still more.